Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Elliot. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. It isn't just one of your holiday games. You may think at first I'm as mad as a hatter when I tell you a cat must have 3 different names. First of all, there's the name that the family use daily, such as Peter, Augustus, Alonzo, or James, such as Victor or Jonathan, George or Bill Bailey, all of them sensible, everyday names. There are fancier names if you think they sound sweeter, some for the gentlemen, some for the dames, such as Plato, Admetus, Electra, Demeter, but all of them sensible, everyday names. But I tell you, a cat needs a name that's particular, a name that's peculiar and more dignified, else how can he keep up his tail perpendicular, or spread out his whiskers, or cherish his pride? Of names of this kind, I can give you a quorum, such as Munkustrap, Quaxo, or Corupcopet, such as Bumballerina, or else Jellylorum. Names that never belong to more than one cat. But above and beyond, there's still one name left over, and that is the name that you never will guess, the name that no human research can discover, but the cat himself knows and will never confess. When you notice a cat in profound meditation, the reason I tell you is always the same. His mind is engaged in a rapt contemplation of the thought, of his name, his ineffable, his effin ineffable, deep and inscrutable, singular name. The Rum-Tum Tugger. The Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat. If you offer him pheasant, he would rather have grouse. If you put him in a house, he would much prefer a flat. If you put him in a flat, then he'd rather have a house. If you set him on a mouse, then he only wants a rat. If you set him on a rat, then he'd rather chase a mouse. Yes, the Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any call for me to shout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum-Tum Tugger is a terrible bore. When you let him in, then he wants to be out. He's always on the wrong side of every door, and as soon as he's at home, then he'd like to get about. He likes to lie in a bureau drawer, but he makes such a fuss if he can't get out. Yes, the Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and it isn't any use for you to doubt it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious beast. His disobliging ways are a matter of habit. If you offer him fish, then he always wants a feast. When there isn't any fish, then he won't eat rabbit. If you offer him cream, then he sniffs and sneers, for he only likes what he finds for himself. So you'll catch him in it right up to the ears, if you put it away on the larder shelf. The Rum-Tum Tugger is artful and knowing. The Rum-Tum Tugger doesn't care for a cuddle, but he'll leap on your lap in the middle of your sewing, for there's nothing he enjoys like a horrible muddle. Yes, the Rum-Tum Tugger is a curious cat, and there isn't any need for me to spout it, for he will do as he do, and there's no doing anything about it. The Song of the Jellicles. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats are rather small. Jellicle cats are merry and bright, and pleasant to hear when they caterwaul. Jellicle cats have cheerful faces. Jellicle cats have bright black eyes. They like to practice their airs and graces and wait for the jellicle moon to rise. Jellicle cats develop slowly. Jellicle cats are not too big. Jellicle cats are roly-poly. They know how to dance a gavotte and a jig. Until the jellicle moon appears, they make their toilet and take their repose. Jellicles wash behind their ears. Jellicles dry between their toes. Jellicle cats are white and black. Jellicle cats are of moderate size. Jellicles jump like a jumping jack. Jellicle cats have moonlit eyes. They're quiet enough in the morning hours. They're quiet enough in the afternoon, reserving their terpsichorean powers to dance by the light of the jellicle moon. Jellicle cats are black and white. Jellicle cats, as I said, are small. If it happens to be a stormy night, they will practice a caper or two in the hall. If it happens the sun is shining bright, you would say they had nothing to do at all. They are resting and saving themselves to be right for the jellicle moon and the jellicle ball. Mr. Mistopheles. You ought to know Mr. Mistopheles, the original conjuring cat. There can be no doubt about that. Please listen to me and don't scoff. All his inventions are off his own bat. There's no such cat in the metropolis. He holds all the patent monopolies for performing surprising illusions and creating eccentric confusions. At prestidigitation and at legerdemain, he'll defy examination and deceive you again. The greatest magicians have something to learn from Mr. Mistopheles' conjuring turn. Presto, away we go. And we all say, oh, well, I never. Was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles? He is quiet and small. He is black, from his ears to the tip of his tail. He can creep through the tiniest crack. He can walk on the narrowest rail. He can pick any card from a pack. He is equally cunning with dice. He is always deceiving you into believing that he's only hunting for mice. He can play any trick with a cork, or a spoon and a bit of fish paste. If you look for a knife or a fork, and you think it is merely misplaced, you have seen it one moment, and then it is gone, but you'll find it next week lying out on the lawn. And we all say, oh, well, I never. Was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles? His manner is vague and aloof. You would think there was nobody shyer, but his voice has been heard on the roof, when he was curled up by the fire, and sometimes he's been heard by the fire when he was about on the roof. At least we all heard somebody who purred, which is incontestable proof of his singular magical powers, and I have known the family to call him in from the garden for hours, while he was asleep in the hall. And not long ago this phenomenal cat produced 7 kittens right out of a hat. And we all said, oh, well, I never. Did you ever know a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles? Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat. There's a whisper down the line at 11:30 11:39, when the night mail's ready to depart, saying, "Skimble, where is Skimble? Has he gone to hunt the thimble? We must find him or the train can't start." All the guards and all the porters and the station master's daughters, they are searching high and low, saying, "Skimble, where is Skimble? For unless he's very nimble, then the night mail just can't go." At 11:42, when the signal's nearly due, and the passengers are frantic to a man, then Skimble will appear, and he'll saunter to the rear. He's been busy in the luggage van. He gives one flash of his glass green eyes, and the signal goes all clear, and we're off at last for the northern part of the northern hemisphere. You may say that by and large it was Skimble who was in charge of the sleeping car express. From the driver and the guards to the bagman playing cards, he will supervise them all more or less. Down the corridor he paces and examines all the faces of the travelers in the first and in the third. He establishes control by regular patrol, and he'd know at once if anything occurred. He will watch you without winking, and he sees what you are thinking, and it's certain that he doesn't approve of hilarity and riot, so the folk are very quiet when Skimble is about and on the move. You can play no springs with Skimbleshanks. He's a cat that cannot be ignored, so nothing goes wrong in the northern mail when Skimbleshanks is aboard. Oh, it's very pleasant when you have found your little den with your name written up on the door, and the berth is very neat with the newly folded sheet, and there's not a speck of dust on the floor. There is every sort of light. You can make it dark or bright. There's a button that you turn to make a breeze. There's a funny little basin you're supposed to wash your face in, and a crank to shut the window if you sneeze. When the guard looks in politely and will ask you very brightly, "Do you like your morning tea weak or strong?" But Skimble's just behind him and was ready to remind him, for Skimble won't let anything go wrong. And when you creep into your cozy berth and pull up the counterpane, you are bound to admit that it's very nice to know that you won't be bothered by mice. You can leave all that to the railway cat, the cat of the railway train. In the middle of the night, he is always fresh and bright. Every now and then he has a cup of tea, with perhaps a drop of scotch while he's keeping on the watch, only stopping here and there to catch a flea. You were fast asleep at Crewe, and so you never knew that he was walking up and down the station. You were sleeping all the while he was busy at Carlisle, where he greets the station master with elation. But you saw him at Dumfries, where he summons the police if there's anything they ought to know about. When you get to Gallowgate, there you do not have to wait, for Skimbleshanks will help you to get out. He gives you a wave of his long brown tail, which says, "I'll see you again." You'll meet without fail on the midnight mail the cat on the railway train. This is my first video that I'm making for this channel. I hope you all enjoyed Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Elliot. I only read my favorites,